Welcome down the rabbit hole, friends. If you can hear us, let us know. I am here with my friend Lauren. She's from the Mothership Explorers podcast. I've been over there a lot. We've done some different videos together, and I absolutely love her. She's become a good friend of mine. Lauren, would you like to say hi to everybody?
Hi. Thank you, Katie. That's really sweet. You're such a
I'm
nice person.
I'm so glad you're here. Usually I just talk to myself. So having you here means a lot. And we have a lot of good conversations behind the scenes. Both of us don't know everything about the Chrisleys. Okay. So if you are someone who also doesn't know, you're going to learn with us. If you're someone who knows everything about the Chrisleys, we welcome you to tell us, let us know what we're getting wrong and right. But I have some really crazy stuff to talk about, Lauren. Hi, everyone. Renelle is here. Hi, T, Kathy, Ivana. So good to see all of you, all my good people. Good to see you, Renelle. Now, it's summer. I know it is really hot where you are. Can you tell me what the temperature was today for you?
114 scorching degrees.
When she told me that, I was like, I cannot. I loved living in Kuala Lumpur because honestly, it was always the same weather. It was hot. It was in the 90s, but it was always the same. And it rained every night because we have the monsoon, and it cooled everything down. And I prefer it like that. And it goes crazy. I cannot deal with 114. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, isn't it kind of muggy in Kuala Lumpur?
It is, but it's you got used to it. You wore the same thing every day. There was something nice about that.
I bet your skin glowed.
I think it did. I think I looked my best when I lived in Kuala Lumpur. But, that's my opinion. Hi, Sandy. So good to see all of you. Hi, Sonia. So glad that you're here. I'm so glad to see all of you. Lauren and I have been talking, and we've come to the conclusion that we're going to try to do more lives together, and maybe some other people will jump on. If any of you are interested, you can always let me know. But Lauren and I, we said we're going to try for Wednesday and Friday nights. We might not always do it, but we'd like to try. Yeah. And maybe sometimes on Lauren's channel as well, we will let you guys know. Let me do a quick intro for you. You're going to see my crazy music with some of the Chrisleys on it. Here we go. Okay, explosive family fight about betrayal. Okay, this is the Chrisley family, all right? The reason I have any interest in the Chrisley family at all, and you can break into Lauren, is because my husband's family, they're all from Georgia, okay? And the Chrisleys had a big mansion down in Georgia, and they did a show down there called Chrisley Knows Best, all right? We've got the dad up here, Todd Chrisley. The mom's name is Julie. And then I'm going to be focusing on the two daughters that are primarily on the show, and they have a lot to do with what is going on right now. We've got Savannah with the short hair, and then this is my favorite picture ever of, with the long hair, we've got Lindsay. Lindsay Chrisley. There's so much going on with this family. Most of you are probably aware that the two parents, Todd and Julie, went to prison. It was about a year ago now, I think, for tax evasion and bank fraud. It was pretty serious, and their series got canceled, and it was a very popular series. Did you ever watch it, Lauren? Did you have any interest in them at all?
No.
No, I totally get that. Now, here's the thing. My husband's family, who's from Georgia, they love the show, right? I mean, and they were critical of it, but they also love it because they grew up in Georgia. You know, they have all the links to all the Southern hospitality and everything, you know, that the Chrisley show was about, right? It's about excess, okay? We've got Todd and Julie. They all live in a big mansion. They're raising several kids. Lindsay Chrisley is from a prior marriage. So they're kind of combining their families together, although Julie doesn't have a child. She only has children with Todd. But, you know, they're combining multiple families, and it's sort of about how they get along with each other, but there's so much excess. That was a big issue for me and why I never could really get into the series, okay? Because a lot of it is about they have these big, beautiful cars and they're fighting over who gets what Hummer, you know? You know, all the daughters and everyone that is involved in the family, they might do pageants or, you know, just the kind of stuff that there are a lot of people everywhere who are involved in it. But usually when you've got a lot of money, you will put like way too much money into this kind of beautifying your life, beautifying your children, making them do these really crazy pageants, sending them on a certain trajectory for their lives, right?
I have a question.
Yes, tell me.
Is this new money or old money?
New money. Definitely new money. Great question, because Todd Chrisley comes from nothing. Now, there's a whole background to that. We're not going to talk about it tonight. His father has a criminal history. Okay. And he comes from a family who, you know, they've been through a lot. They've come from some fraud and other kind of stuff going on there. And Todd maybe has, according to the, you know, court system, has repeated some of that in his own life. But this was one of the reasons why it was hard for me to really get into the series. And maybe some of you, actually a lot of people feel the same, because to be quite honest, it's hard to watch people fight. And, you know, it's a little bit fake as well, but to fight over things like who's going to get what car, what beautiful car, you know, who's going to get the most money to go to college out of the, you know, will you go to Harvard or Yale? You know, it's just, it's so much excess that most of us can't really relate to that type of lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's definitely how I feel. I take it these guys aren't hippies, Kathy says. Definitely not. From what I've seen and what they show us on the show, I don't think they're hippies at all. So we've got Todd and Julie. They went to prison for bank fraud, but the real crux of what I want to talk about tonight is that their appeals just came up. And that a big part of what happened here is that Lindsay Chrisley went to the FBI and provided all the not all the information, but a good portion of the information, provided, you know, all kinds of documents and such in order to send her parents to prison. This prize daughter we see in the background with the big fluffy hair, you know, who was this big pageant girl. She turned on her family and worked with the FBI to put them in prison. Hi, Ramona. Thank you so much, Kathy. We just got $70 from Kathy Chapman.
Wow, Kathy,
so sweet.
That's so sweet. Thank you for that.
She's very kind. Very, very kind. Thank you so much.
She's live that I've seen.
I know.
She's amazing.
I know, and I really do appreciate that. Okay, so for me, you know, there's a lot of new stuff that's coming out because the appeals just came up. Okay. And we've got the daughter of Todd and Julie. So Julie's daughter, who we have here with the short hair, Savannah. Savannah is really fighting for her parents. She's got her own podcast. She's just 100% on the side of her parents. She'll do anything to bring them home. And, you know, some toxic things are going on behind the scenes between Savannah and Lindsay. Okay. It happened before. You know, before her parents went to prison, we knew some of that was there, but they allegedly reconciled once the court case came around. Everybody reconciled. Lindsay went to court and tried to help her parents, even though she had started all this. Mm-hmm. She tried to help her parents in court, but it was too late. You know, they were taken off, they were carted off to prison. So we've got some stuff that's going on behind the scenes, and Savannah has spoken out about it on TikTok. And that's what you and I are going to kind of take a look at. Okay, Lauren, because to me, I actually think there's a lot that's going to happen here, and it's coming up because Savannah has told everyone that she's got a new reality TV show coming out. We're going to hear about it. She says it's not going to be really reality. It's going to be talking about my case, my parents' case. It's going to be making the case that this was wrong, that the government and the court system was wrong. And I really want you guys to be aware of like all the true crime aspects of what I'm going to try to do with this show. And I'm really interested in it. Like, I want to see what she has to say. I want to know what she can show us that the court did that is unfair. I want to see it. And I also want to know what the heck happened here, because we've got Lindsay in the background. She turns faster than a light switch. You know, she was at 1 minute at war with her parents, and the next minute she goes into court and pretends like, I never said any of that about my parents. I had nothing to do with it. You know, and now we've seen another flip flop. And that's what I want to talk to you about, the psychology of what is going on here.
Yeah.
You know, I can't imagine doing this to anybody, let alone my family. And I have some issues with Todd and Julie and Savannah, and I'm going to be talking about all of it. You know, I'm not going to side with one person or the other, but okay, let's listen to a little bit more.
Okay.
Welcome back to this week's episode of Unlocked. I would say I'm really happy to be here, guys, but then I would be lying to you.
Okay, that was Savannah Chrisley. That is her new podcast that she does, but it's also available on YouTube. And I got that clip from YouTube. Okay. And in her podcast, she talks extensively about what's going on with these court cases and what's going on with her family. You can always check her out on YouTube. I just wanted to give you that introduction so you could see what the podcast looks like. Now we're going to go on to what she had to say in TikTok. Okay, that's Savannah. We're going to hear what Savannah has to say about her sister, Lindsay, who we had all assumed had made up with the family, had made up with the Chrisleys. They were getting along great. But we're going to hear what Savannah has to say now.
Publicly at all because I didn't feel like there was a need. But since Lindsay felt the need to go on her podcast and discuss this in order to help get her ratings, I will address it. I most certainly told her privately to not attend. I told her that she was not wanted, that my dad did not want her there, and that he didn't care to have a relationship with her. So I said all of these things. I am more than happy that I said them. And it's my parents' appeal. They have the right to say who they want there and who they don't. And
so what Savannah is saying here, this is the sister that belongs to Julie and Todd. She says, my parents didn't want my sister, Lindsay Chrisley, at the appeal. Flat out. They didn't want her there. And Lindsay apparently went on her podcast. She has a podcast with Kayla Lowry, who's a teen mom. So you can kind of see the kind of people that they're all involved with. She's hanging out with teen moms. She's doing a podcast with them. You know, Lindsay, as far as I know, doesn't have a job outside of social media. And I'm not putting that down, but I think it does give us some kind of information about, you know, what her motives are, how she might use social media, or how she might be after some fame. You know what I mean? Lindsay did a podcast, and she said on the podcast, I can't believe it. My sister, Savannah, told me that, you know, she didn't want me to come to my appeal. My parents don't want me to come to my appeal. I thought everything was good between us. After they went to court, Lauren, and in the court, the FBI agent that came, or whoever, read the letter that Lindsay Chrisley wrote to the FBI saying, you need to investigate my parents.
Oh, how hurtful.
Yeah. Can you imagine that?
No,
Well, I mean,
no.
Now, there are those of us who have parents and have families who are really messed up. And I mean, Lauren, you and I can both understand that. And there would be a time and place. There are times and places where you might have to do something or say something or stand up for what you think is right. But when you really look at Lindsay Chrisley, the way she went about doing all this, how she went to the media, how she went on an interview with Dr. Phil and she spoke all about this long before her parents were being investigated. She went all over the place, spewing out all this negativity about her family. Okay.
Yeah.
And my issue with that is I'm sure there were a lot of problems, and we can talk about that in another, episode or another video that we do. There were a lot of problems, but these kids were given so much, Lauren. They were given so much. And it's not just the financial stuff. It's the fact that Todd and Julie, I have a lot of issues with them, but they took these kids in from Todd's first marriage. They tried to make them a part of the family. They even raised the granddaughter, which comes from Todd's first marriage. They raised it as their own child. You know, so they raised her as their own child. She's lovely, you know, and it's just really hard to imagine that you would be so unhappy that you would really just no gratitude at all for anything that your family has done. You put them in a situation where they are now in prison.
Yeah. That's it. I'm just thinking it sounds kind of like the Menendez brothers without, the murderous part.
Right. Well, and with the Menendez brothers, we do have, and I've actually been looking into that case extensively. It's funny that you brought it up. I mean, there is a lot of information that leads you to believe it's possible that there was sexual abuse going on in that family. And I personally feel like I can understand how messed up, those boys would have been if that was what was happening. But we've definitely not heard anything like that from Lindsay. I mean, we've heard that she didn't get something that she wanted, that her parents didn't like her boyfriend, that they didn't support her enough. I mean, these are things, first world problems. I'm sorry. I mean, maybe I'm not a very nice person, but first world problems in certain ways,
Yeah.
And I see someone here saying that Lindsay has 2 different podcasts. I'm not aware. If you can tell me what the other one is about, I'd love to know. And Catherine says Todd had a huge issue with Lindsay running around with a man while she was still married. Yeah. So things like that, which I understand, maybe Todd was not the best dad. Maybe he was wrong about some stuff. I just find it the lengths that Lindsay went to really screw her parents over is pretty shocking to me. Okay. So we've got Savannah here saying it is not all forgiven. We went to court and we saw what you wrote to the judge. So, I mean, it's not all forgiven. And I was kind of surprised because it has been very much portrayed in the media that Lindsay made up with her family.
Yeah, it would be so hard to forgive even your child of something like that as you're sitting in prison. And from what I've heard, these prisons are exceptionally bad.
That's what Savannah is saying. And not only that, but you're sitting in prison with younger children. I mean, they have, I can't remember the ages of the younger kids, but they're not old enough to leave the house. So I think that makes a difference as well. I mean, I'm just saying it's not like Lindsay was the only child. Todd and Julie have to worry about these younger children who are still at home with no parents. And that was Lindsay's partially Lindsay's doing, I'm not forgetting, and you can feel free to disagree with me, Lauren, or anybody. I love to hear when people disagree with me. I'm not forgetting that Todd and Julie likely made some of this happen. You know what I mean? Like, they clearly, if they committed a crime, that's their crime. I understand, but I'm just surprised. I'm surprised by what Lindsay has done. Nini is here, Lauren, and she gave $20. She says, hi to 2 of my favorite ladies.
Aww.
That's so sweet. Hi, Nini. So nice to see you. Good to see you. Zadia. Hi, Zadia. So glad to see you guys. All right, let's listen to a little bit more of what Savannah has to say. She's going to talk about, so sorry, Lindsay, but you screwed over our family.
With her involvement with the government, my parents didn't want her there. She had involvement, and she has threatened to sue me. That's fine.
I just broke it up.
Yes. From that, I felt like the environment.
So this is where we're going to hear, this is Lindsay Chrisley speaking to Dr. Phil. Okay. So before her parents ever went to court, Lindsay Chrisley went on Dr. Phil. I have to cover it up because Dr. Phil will strike a bitch. I'm sorry. He will strike me. He is crazy about his clips. So Lindsay went on, she did an extensive interview on Dr. Phil. I wish I could show the whole thing. Maybe someday I will and just take the strike because it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And she just basically complains about this and that having to do with her family. I care, Lauren, but I don't know. I don't know what your family was like, but my family was nowhere near perfect. And I've still found a lot of gratitude for them in my life, you know? So it's really hard to hear someone complain about, she didn't like my boyfriend, he wasn't supportive enough. Like, it's just hard to really see that as being something that then you have to completely betray your family about, you know?
Yeah, I don't, it sounds very immature to me.
Exactly. And we can talk about it more in the future, but this is just a small snippet of what's going on. Thank you, Laura Walker. She sent a super sticker for $20. Thank you so much.
Oh,
This is so sweet. Yeah, like really sweet. These are the biggest super stickers I've ever gotten. So, Lauren, you're my lucky charm.
I hope so.
You definitely
I would love to be somebody's lucky charm. If I
You
can be
are.
yours, then I'm all there.
You're Lauren, my lucky charm. Okay, let's listen to a little bit more.
It was volatile and I didn't want to be around it. I just felt like it was the best thing for my family and for my well-being.
How did you find out that your father and stepmother were going to face charges by a federal grand jury in Atlanta? And I think that was, for bank fraud, wire fraud, tax evasion?
I started receiving texts that were talking about how I needed to be able to help them.
Okay. So this was a very small snippet. I wish I could show you the whole thing from Dr. Phil because there's so much. To me, there's a lot of psychological things we could talk about, but that gives you an idea of Lindsay Chrisley. She sat down with Dr. Phil. She likely got paid to do the interview. I can't be 100% sure about that. And she just spewed out like all these problems that she has with her family. There wasn't enough support. They weren't there for her when she needed them. Despite the fact, and I don't know everything about this, but at one point she divorced from her husband. She needed help with her child, and they also welcomed her and her child back. I mean, they just, you know, they're not perfect, but they have been there, you know, I mean, they've been there when their kids have needed them. We've seen that in real life and on the show. It's a fact, you know, they're raising grandchildren, you know? So we see Lindsay, she's very upset on Dr. Phil. We find out when the Chrisleys go to court that she was an informant. Lindsay was an informant to the FBI. And it's likely they would not have been able to make the case without her. Many of you are aware Lindsay was very involved with a certain YouTuber. And you know, that escalated everything to just all these crazy levels. And that was something that was hard to watch as well. You know, I often wonder, you know, what are Lindsay's motivations? I see fame being a motivation. I see jealousy and envy being a motivation. Oh my gosh, look who's here. LB! I know Elle knows about Chrisley, knows best. She knows better than you do, Lauren. Good to see all of you guys. So nice to see so many nice people here. And this is my favorite picture of Lindsay. Can you see it, Lauren? Lauren, I know it's okay. Yeah. This is my favorite because I call these gills. Like, how gilly can I be? Just sticking your head out.
The first thing I thought of when I saw it was, you know, the higher the hair, the closer to God.
Exactly. That's who the Chrisleys are. You get it. The higher the hair, the closer to God. And I want to say, like I said, my husband's family is from Georgia. They're amazing. I love them so much. And they do so much, you know, they're very Southern. I absolutely love them. And some of them really like the Chrisleys. So it's not anything about like the Southern mentality, but there was definitely a lot of excess in the show that was hard for me. And this hair is the perfect example. The higher the hair, the closer to God. All right, now I just want to show you this quick excerpt of people making fun of Lindsay on the stand, okay? Because once Lindsay was called to court to testify against her parents, because she was she was the whistleblower, you know? So they call her into court to testify against her parents, and the whole time she's just like, yeah, I don't remember saying that. Never said that. You know, all the stuff that she had said about her parents that brought them to court because now they had made up or she wanted something from them. She was like, I don't know. I don't remember. Let me show you the clip, Lauren.
Okay.
I do not remember saying those things, and those things were not meant to be. That was not meant to be. I do not remember saying those things, and those things were not.
Because there's nothing that I'm saying.
Okay, so obviously it isn't Lindsay, but it's a clip that people send around and they're just like, it's hilarious because this is definitely how Lindsay was on the stand. You know, she just acted like she had never heard about this. I was never even, what? I didn't say anything about Todd being gay when she had like written a letter you know, about it to the FBI, you know? So it was, oh, okay. Renelle says, okay, first off, let me say, Layla Dog 1234 says, I'm in real estate. I knew he had to be doing something shady by the amount of money they were apparently making. They were lying to banks to get millions of dollars and then spending the money. I believe that this is true. And this is something I do want to talk about more in depth. It's kind of like very factual. We have to go through the evidence. I think the court did show and did find that they were committing financial crimes. You know, I still question how much maybe Julie knew about it. I also question how much, you know, other people around them were kind of, you know, also doing it and involving them in it. It doesn't make it right, but you know, there's a lot of layers to what was going on here.
Yeah. I'm kind of seeing this as two different things. Like, as a parent, how would I feel if my child had done this to me, even if I am guilty?
Exactly. Yeah, even if you are guilty. That's exactly how I feel. And I mean, it's so hard because, of course, and feel free, anybody in the chat, to disagree with me. But of course, it's very different for me when you have a parent who has beaten and abused you in the most horrible ways your whole life versus a parent that, you know, is really Christian and you don't like some of their rules and values and you wish they would have supported you a little bit more. And, you know, there's just a difference between what maybe Lindsay is upset about and what some other people really do have to be upset about in their lives. Okay, Renelle said something. Let me see if I can go up. Oh, Renelle, I'm missing your comment.
I can see it. She says, let's not forget the person who shall not be named contacted the FBI
Right.
and reported Todd for witness intimidation.
100%. Thank you for pulling that up. First, she says Lindsay was always jealous of her younger sister, in my opinion. So I wanted to say that because I think that's true, Lauren. I think I wish I would have shown you a little bit more as they were growing up. I did get a feeling that there was some jealousy towards Savannah. Now, I think that I can really understand that part. Savannah is the one who is the offspring of Julie and Todd. And it would be really hard if they're together and they have this beautiful life and Julie's a really good mom and you're part of that family. Lindsay was a part of that family, but Julie isn't really your mom. You know, I can understand there's some jealousy that would be there. And then just like you said, here's what Renelle said. We know that she who shall not be named contacted the FBI and reported Todd for witness intimidation. That is 100% like a big part of this story. But, you know, Lindsay is the one who linked all of that, who provided the information, who went to all of these multiple media sources and put her family's SHIT out there. Again, okay, like they were doing SHIT. I'm just kind of surprised. I was surprised when the whole court thing happened and Lindsay was acting like, oh, we've gotten back together. Everything's, you know, it's all bygones. How can it be bygones, Lindsay? Your family has lost so much because of this. Just doesn't really fit. And now we're seeing Savannah's like, it's not bygones. It's not bygones at all. Okay. Let's listen to a little bit more from Savannah.
That cannot be backed up via the court records. The FBI read off a letter Lindsay wrote to them in court. So yes, she's correct. I didn't want her to attend, and neither. I also find it really interesting that she chooses to discuss this on her podcast as very damning articles about her coming out. So it just goes to show who she is and the depths that she will go for a little bit of fame and attention. And it hates me to even discuss this, but the record has to be set straight. And on a new show that they don't believe is happening, it is less of a reality show and more of a show that is true crime and discusses our case in depth. There will be legal analysts on there discussing it.
Okay, so this is Savannah, and I have to say that I never liked Savannah. I didn't like these kids. I thought that they were very spoiled. I did not like the show. I watched some of it, but it got to a point where I was like, this is very fake. It's all about how much money they have. It's all about the new dress, the new makeup, going shopping, the best locations to film at. And I didn't like it, right? But definitely, since things have gotten real and everything happened with the court, and now we have seen this daughter, Savannah, come out and have to as she puts it, she needs to make money for this family. She says, I'm flat out, I got my podcast, I'm going to do this reality show, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, because I need to make money so my parents can appeal. I need to make money so that my siblings have money. And I'm seeing a little bit of a change in Savannah. Whereas before I did find her to be just as spoiled as Lindsay. They're all a bunch of spoiled kids. That's just my opinion. I'm seeing some big changes happen with her, that maybe she is learning some important life lessons, and she's standing up in a way that, is not as selfish as what I've seen in the past from this family.
She's probably had to grow up a little bit from all this.
Exactly. She definitely did. LB says, wonder if Emily Baker will be on. Emily D. Baker? Because Savannah says that this is not going to be a reality show. Thank you, LB. And anyone who doesn't know LB, she has a great channel, wonderful channel, and she probably knows a lot more about the Chrisleys than I do. And I look forward to watching you talk about it, LB. And I look forward to watching this show, because Savannah's saying it's not going to be like what we did before. It's not going to be that fake reality show. We are going to talk about the true crime of what's going on here, my parents' court case. And Elle's like, I wonder if Emily D. Baker will be on. Emily D. Baker, if you guys don't know, is a great YouTube legal analyst and lawyer. And yeah, she could definitely go on there. Who knows? It would be interesting to see for sure. Okay.
Is Lindsay the oldest child?
There's a brother. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. There's an older brother, okay? And I forget his name, but he comes from Lindsay's mother. Those two are biological siblings. And he is the one who fathered the daughter that is being raised by the Chrisleys as their own daughter, even though it's their granddaughter, because the oldest son had some issues with drugs. So it really seemed like Todd's first marriage. Are you kidding me? Like, Lauren knows some stuff about my past. Like I come from a family with a lot of issues with drug abuse, stuff like that. So I'm not really judging them. I'm just saying, like, you can kind of see the dynamics of what's going on here. Todd had a first marriage, and the children from that marriage have had some issues. The mother from that marriage has had some issues. And then you've got this second family, this new family that comes along, and the kids are doing, they're maybe a little bit more successful. Todd finally has money. Julie's a really good mom. So there's kind of a complicated dynamic that goes on with all of that.
All right, do you know about how old Lindsay was when their families merged?
I don't know the exact age, but I think pretty young. Okay, LB says Todd loves Emily D. Baker. Yes. And then Kyle is the old. Thank God LB's here. Check out LB's channel. He says Kyle is the oldest brother. Kyle Chrisley. Perfect. Thank you so much, LB. That was very helpful. Okay, let's listen to a little bit more of Savannah.
It will also touch on all the prison reform advocacy work that we've got. An update on the appeal, which a lot of people have been asking questions. We got the opinion back.
Okay, so we see Savannah. She came out on TikTok and she was like, yeah, hell yeah, I have a problem with Lindsay. Lindsay went on her podcast and said that we didn't invite her to the appeal. And no, we didn't. We're mad at her. Like, look at what happened. She gave all this information to the FBI. Now she's going on her podcast and talking about it. Looks like she wants money and fame. Okay. I get that. I really get it. Right. And then Savannah goes on her TikTok. She shares about it. And eventually she goes back to her podcast to talk about the real crux of what she wants to tell us about what happened in the appeals process for her mom and dad. Because one thing about what happened in their court case is there's a couple of shady things that happened. We've got someone from the IRS who testified incorrectly. That's been proven. There's just a couple of things that can be brought up to the court. Now, many times before, I have seen cases where I thought someone was really innocent and I hope that they got out. But I would look at it and say the first trial was so airtight, they're never going to get a new trial. But the Chrisleys, a lot of commentators are saying, do have some reasons why maybe they could appeal. And it looks like the latest appeal did help Julie. Okay. And we're just going to listen a little bit to what Savannah says about it. And this is from her current podcast. You can check it out at at Savannah Chrisley on YouTube.
It's like 55 pages. And as I read through it, I agreed with some things, didn't agree with some things, but that is what it is. We had to get, and the appeal ended with mom getting resentenced. So now we sit and wait, hopefully.
Okay. So, when the court, went through the appeals process, they found that, and Savannah will talk about it, that Todd the motions that he put forward don't work for him. Okay. But that Julie should be resentenced because they cannot find all of the evidence that would have been used to find her guilty of a certain period of time participating in financial crimes. There's a period of time that they uphold, like the court was right about, and there's a secondary period of time where they're like, we don't believe you can really hold her responsible for that period of time, which means that she could have her sentence looked at and changed. And for Savannah, she feels like this is a win. This is something. She talks extensively about how she's not going to get her hopes up, but that she does really hope that her mom is going to come home. We'll listen to a little bit more.
Hopefully she comes home, because the government said they could not, the appeals court said they could not find the evidence used to convict mom. So that is
Okay, so Renelle says, I commented, Savannah has really stepped up to the plate and has had to grow up overnight to take care of her brother and niece, putting her life on hold. What do you think of that, Lauren?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really does sound like she has stepped up because she had to. It's either she stepped up or what's going to happen if they go to foster care or to their family, or, to keep their lives as stable as possible. It sounds like she stepped up.
Right. And I'm glad to see it, because I will be frank with you. I didn't like her, before. I didn't really like a lot of the kids. I felt that they were too privileged. And it's good to see that, she's having to mature. I'm sure she's not perfect, but, and I don't know that her parents are going to get out. I think that this is going to be a long, hard time for this family. But it's interesting to me to see how we've got a portion of the family that's sticking together. That's their response to it, Lauren. They're sticking together. Yeah. They're tightening up. They're finding strength in each other. And then we've got Lindsay, who's kind of sitting outside. And from the beginning, I felt that despite all the problems that she's endured in her life, I just really felt like, where are you able to see gratitude? What are you bringing to the world? Because she left that family with money, with privilege, with all kinds of stuff. And, she does podcasts. I'm not saying that's bad. I don't want to be a jerk to her. I don't want to be hypercritical of her, but I just think to myself, like, I have a hard time relating to you. I have a hard time caring about you. It's been frustrating to see how she has just kind of walked away like, oh, I made up with my family. No, Todd and Julie are in prison. There's nothing about this that can just be thrown out the window. Like, it's all better now.
I mean, was it her testimony that sealed the deal, or her letter, or whatever it was?
I think it's more like it was her letter that started everything, her involvement that started everything.
She got the ball rolling.
That's what I think. Okay, let's see. LB says Chase wasn't capable taking care of Grayson and Chloe, and Nanny Faye is just too old. Yes. So these are other characters that I wasn't going to bring in because not everybody knows them. But for the people who do, there are other people in the family. They've got Nanny Faye. I think Nanny Faye's been dealing with cancer. So they did have some other family members, but really, like, Savannah is the one that needs to make the money for them. They need it for these appeals and for their lifestyle. Now, here's one thing I will say. There's one thing that really bothers me. They still have the mansion in Georgia. I don't understand how that works. That's an issue for me. It's like, they lost a lot of money. I think they owe something crazy. Maybe it's $40 million to the government, something crazy like that. But the government puts them in prison, but then they get to keep their multi-million-dollar mansion in Georgia.
Well, maybe because they don't want to disrupt the kids. They want to keep their home.
Yeah, totally. I get that. I just think it's weird the way that our system works. I can't wait to hear more about it. I'm interested in hearing more about it on this like reality show, true crime show they're going to do. I want to hear, because I've seen this before. I've seen people who have a lot of money, they end up owing a lot of money. They're basically destitute, but not really. You know, they're still living in the mansion. They're still paying taxes on it. They're still, you know, Grayson, and Chloe still go to some private schools from what I understand. So it's like, how does that happen? You know, did they put money to the side that can't be touched? Very interesting to me, you know? And of course, I want the kids to be okay. So I'm not saying we should take that away, but it's just interesting. Let's put Todd and Julie in prison. They can't help make the money back. But then we've also got the family still sitting there with, you know, at least some money coming in from somewhere, you know?
Yeah. But you know, sometimes when you're famous like that, you get a lot of stuff for free, and maybe the school, excuse me, the school is letting them go for free, just, you know, so they can say we have these students.
Yeah, it could be. Or also they could be prioritizing Savannah makes money. The first place it goes to is the school. So I'm not saying like it's something shady.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Okay, Kentucky Girl. I would like to know what Lindsay has done for her family since the Chrisleys have gone to prison. So allegedly Lindsay is not very involved. But look at her. Look at her there, Kentucky Girl. Like that's what she's giving to this family. She's got the gills going for everyone, you know? All right, let's listen to a little bit more.
Find anything to tie her to bank fraud, you know, before 2007. But even in 2007, all they say in the opinion is that she went and paid loans. Paying a loan is not.
Okay, of course I had to stop it every couple of minutes, so I'm not infringing.
And then I'll have time to truly focus on all of Dad's stuff. This really wasn't, people view it as a loss for Dad. But in the grand scheme of things, when you read through it, the appeals court gave us a very solid case for ineffective counsel by saying trial lawyers should have done X, Y, and Z.
Okay. All right. So that's what I wanted to show you here tonight, Lauren. We've got Savannah coming forward, and she's like, we went through the appeal. Mom is going to be resentenced. There's a chance she might come home. I'm really happy about that. You know, my dad's appeal didn't take, but they still gave us some information saying that my dad may have had ineffective counsel. So we're going to appeal for that eventually as well. And like, I'll never stop trying. I'm not going to show you. Obviously, Savannah did a really long podcast about this on her channel. Go and check it out. I don't want to take the views away from her. But you know, now you said you haven't watched the show. Are you interested at all, more interested now that I've showed you like some of what's going on at this point in time? Because I wasn't that interested in the show, and I'm interested in this.
Oh yeah, now that you've explained it, I'm a lot more interested.
Yeah, because for me, this is like real life. This is real, maybe hardship. Now, there are people out there who can't afford the kind of attorneys that the Chrisleys can. And I see how they might watch something like this and be like, Savannah, your parents, you know, they got a lot of representation. But I do think from this family's point of view, from how they grew up, from everything they've experienced, it's been a really big hardship for them. It's been a really big push, like you said, to mature because they don't have any other choice.
Yeah, it's like sink or swim. You know, they're either going to hold it together or they're going to lose it all.
Yeah. Now, Renelle says, and I didn't know this, Renelle says Savannah is a realtor. Okay. So maybe she's using that as well to bring in some kind of finances for her family. And I have heard that maybe Todd and Julie were able to move some money over to Nanny Faye. That's the grandmother in the situation. I'm just saying, just to have some kind of money there for the kids. So they definitely could have a couple of sources of income at this point in time. When I watched Savannah's podcast about this, again, check out her YouTube. I was like, I'm interested in what's coming out. She says that the show will be coming out in the fall. But you know, we'll see. It might take longer than that, but I am interested in seeing it. I want to know what was going on behind the scenes. I want to know more about what happened in the courtroom. It's hard for me to believe. Okay, Lauren, you tell me what you think about this, because I was just talking to somebody about this. I always believe that the courts are very logical, and that the majority of the time they get things right and things are done fairly. But lately, some people have been saying to me, I just don't believe that that's true at all. And I've definitely, I'm aware of some really big cases, like the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case, where I don't think everything was done super fairly. So maybe we will be shocked by what the Chrisleys have to show us happened in court.
Yeah, I have recently become very disheartened by our justice system. I've seen
Right.
a lot of things that I don't agree with. Things aren't fair, and there seems to be a lot of outside influence that really impacts what the ultimate outcome is.
Right. And I saw that when I read about some of the stuff that happened for the Chrisleys in the courtroom, and the fact that the IRS expert, did testify incorrectly, but it doesn't automatically get them a new trial. I'm not sure that it should, but I mean, it's true. The testimony was incorrect. The court says it doesn't affect the outcome, but it's kind of shocking to hear that, because you
How could it not?
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, they should get a new trial. It's still on them to pay another $1 million to whoever. I think Savannah said they paid $4 million to their attorneys.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, definitely. And she did say, she was like, I can't believe we paid that much money and we didn't get like the best representation. And she did say, I can't imagine what people do when they don't have this kind of money. I was like, oh, Savannah.
Yeah, if you only knew.
Right. Oh, Elle knows everything. LB says, she's talking about, so someone asked, could it be that Savannah and Lindsay and all these people had Coogan accounts? Do you know about Coogan accounts, Lauren?
No.
Okay, Coogan accounts are like, it's a big thing now in some of the stuff that I talk about, where it's an account that's set up for a child who participates in some kind of on-screen thing. So
Yeah.
It's how they get paid. Okay, but only some states like require that you do it, right? So like, for example, these are my things that I cover, but like with the Duggars in Arkansas didn't require that family to have Coogan accounts for their kids. So all that money, likely went to Jim Bob, and then he just controls how it gets doled out.
Right.
So Elle talks about, someone asked, do they have Coogan accounts? And then Elle says, Honey Boo Boo only had a Coogan account for 2 jobs that she did in California, because it would have been required there. But in Georgia, she didn't have a Coogan account because that's where her whole show was filmed. And so Elle says, if Georgia required a Coogan account, then she would have had a ton of money by the time she was an adult, So that's really interesting to think about. So I'm sure now I would say we did see Todd Chrisley spending a lot of money on his kids. He invested back in them, I guess, through the money that they made on the show. But yeah, Georgia doesn't require the Coogan accounts, according to LB. Thank you, Elle. That was really nice for you to share.
Yeah, that's nice. She's so knowledgeable about all this stuff.
I know, she really is, for sure. Again, check out LB's channel. Lauren's channel is called Mothership Explores. Check that out. We had Renelle Smith in here. Please check out her channel. I'm trying to think of who else.
Nene Marie.
Nene Marie has an amazing channel, but she also has a new true crime channel, and I forgot. I wanted to link it. I don't have it right now, but I will link it below this video. If you're watching and it's not live, it will be below the video. Okay. Let's see. LB says Tennessee has Coogan accounts from what I just read. So whenever the family moved, they had to establish Coogan accounts. Okay. So, there could be some money for certain people. That's interesting that every state is so different. Candy says a lot of money they owe. If you all remember the first episode, suppose he paid for to get a show. He made a comment. They spend $300,000 a year on clothes. That was one of the reasons I did not like this show. Is there was a lot of excess. There's just too much for me and my liking. Okay, thank you guys so much. I really enjoyed having you here tonight. We wanted to get on and just kind of introduce this topic. We want to do other topics as well, so it's not as though we'll only be focusing on this, but Lauren told me she's going to go live with me, a couple times a week. It might be on her channel. If it is, I'll try to let you guys know on my channel. That's Mothership Explores. Check it out. But, we're excited that you guys joined us. I want to see, now we have Gypsy Rose Blanchard's reality show is going on right now, Lauren. And I've been following that case extensively. Yes. Okay, all that. But I can't watch the reality show. I can't watch it because I feel like it's just too fake for me. Reality TV has become very staged, very planned out. And so it's hard for me to really get into it anymore. I like to see the off-screen stuff that happens and the off-screen or the interviews that happen on screen, but they're not with the reality show. That's where I feel like more real stuff happens. For me, I'm just kind of like, that is where I get the real download from. And even like, you guys know, I loved Sister Wives, and yet I just really can't get back on board with it because I feel like the reality show itself is not telling us what really happens with these people. And that's why I always like it in the beginning, but not so much at the end. So I'm grateful that Savannah's going to do a new show, but she's saying it's not really going to be reality. It's going to be about true crime. It's going to be about this case. And I'm looking forward to watching it. Thanks, you guys.
Saying that it's going to be more like a docuseries?
I think so. That's the impression that I got from what she was saying. It sounds like they're still working, everything out. There's probably legal stuff too, right? Like they can only do this or they can't say that. And I know like Todd and Julie probably aren't supposed to make money off of their whatever crime they committed. So there's probably some legal things they have to.
But their kids can. But their kids could, I think.
That's great. And then that makes sense. I'm not saying that's great, but that makes sense that Savannah could make the money for the other kids. So I am looking forward to watching it. And I hope you guys will join us. Good. I hope you'll watch it with me, Lauren. Maybe we can this is something that I've tried and I'm hoping Lauren and I could maybe do it together or perfect it. I was able to get into a Discord. It was actually with Nikki from Supernatural Crime with Nikki. And we were able to show like episodes in the Discord. So like if I bought an episode, we could all watch it together. And I really enjoyed that. And maybe we can do something like that.
That would be fun.
Yeah, I'm so glad to see all of you here. Thanks for all the creators who showed up. That was really nice. Good to see you, Teresa. Thank you, Ivana, my wonderful moderator. Thank you to everyone who gave super stickers. That was really, really sweet. And thank you, Lauren. Lauren from Mothership Explored. We love you.
I'm so happy to be here.
And we made it work because we don't even know how to use computers. So.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you again next time as we head down yet another rabbit hole. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.